Hey everybody, Adam Savage here in my cave with another episode of Tested VR, and this one is a show and tell about how to get a head. The fact is, over my lifetime, I've had my head molded and cast and scanned multiple times, and I'm going to tell you several stories about how each of these representations of me came to be. The very first time I had my head cast was this one. This is 1994. I'm 27 years old, and I'm working in Jamie Heinemann's shop at Colossal Pictures, and I was bald and beardless. And I was bald because I shaved my head in 93 just because I was sick of my hair. And I went bald for a couple of years. That was just a personal choice. It was great. It was awesome. I have a reasonably shaped head. You know when it's raining before anyone else. Being bald was kind of awesome. I was beardless because I had participated in a photo shoot for a friend of mine, and she had asked that I take all the hair off of my head. This is the very last time I was beardless, 1994. Shortly after this, I had dinner with my then girlfriend and an ex-girlfriend, because they were friends. We had dinner together, and the two of them agreed that I should never shave my beard off again because I looked, quote, like a grape. The kind of things that the people who love you will say. So being beardless and bald, I was like, this is the perfect moment to cast my head. So I went to Jamie and asked if we could do that. I provided the materials. We did the casting using alginate, and plaster of Paris bandages. And I was also, we were assisted in this. It was Jamie and Ralph Miller. Ralph Miller was a model maker I worked with back then. He's a world-class sculptor, very funny human being, and the human who gave me the joke, I reject your reality and substitute my own. It's a famous quote from a movie. Is it Dungeon Master? I think it's Dungeon Master. Anyway, Ralph Miller said that to me one day, and I said, Ralph, I'm just going to take that. That's a perfect phrase to take with me for the rest of my life. So thank you, Ralph, for that. Ralph and Jamie slathered me with dental alginate, which is a seaweed-based casting material that is non-toxic, sets up in just a couple of minutes, and it was, for the longest time, the default method for casting humans. Actually, I think it still is. Back then, we slathered the stuff on me. It's like wet, cold oatmeal, and then once it sets, you immediately cover it with plaster bandages front and back, and you pull them off, you pull the alginate out, and hopefully you've keyed it so they can go back together. But a lot of people saw this in a picture we posted recently and were wondering how I got a casting with my mouth open. Simply that I kept my mouth open, and Ralph and Jamie left a breathing hole there for me. That's it. There's nothing more complicated than that. Then they left a little space for me to be able to inhale. I am specifically almost never claustrophobic, even in tight spaces. To have your head cast, it's gotten faster over the years because it is a difficult process to be party to. But I think we did this in about 25 minutes. I think the last time I had my head cast, it was even shorter than that. But yeah, I just kept my mouth open, and they put the alginate around that. And I used this as a patterning. Oop, I knocked myself over. I used this as a patterning buck for years, for many years, until this one came along. Now, this is a head cast that was done by some of my friends at Industrial Light and Magic under the tutelage of my friend Danny Wagner, who is a master sculptor. Danny's a triple threat. He's a master painter, a master sculptor, and a master model maker. In this case, he and some of my colleagues at ILM did a casting of my head, and as you can see, they left my beard on. This casting was made specifically as part of a commission to make this head. And this was a commission that I initiated with Danny to sculpt me at 117 years old. And in fact, I mean, it's a beautiful sculpt that he did. It's done in a low durometer silicone, so it feels very flesh-like. I actually wore this as a prosthetic, which was fantastic. I spent a whole day in this and a sweatsuit. There's something really enjoyable about looking in the mirror and seeing this. Danny had as reference material for this sculpt pictures of my own dad up to about 2 weeks before he passed away. So Danny really got to infuse this sculpt with the way in which my family ages. And I really dig this. 23, 43, 117. What about this one, you're asking? Right. Well, this one, by the way, it's always useful to have a casting of yourself, even though it is very strange to physically stand in front of yourself. This one comes from my friends at FBFX in London. They make superhero suits, space suits for all sorts of movies like The Martian, all the Marvel films. They've done tons of the movie armor for those, and countless other beautiful films. They have a method of obtaining a casting of a human that does not involve casting them. Because, as you can imagine, movie stars are expensive, and to take up their time to make a casting of their head or their body is something that can cost production a lot. So FBFX initiated a room with hundreds of cameras in it with which they can take one flash photo of you with all of these hundreds of cameras and create a photogrammetry model of you. So the total time I spent participating in this process, about 5 minutes. And then a few weeks later, they sent me this sculpt, this carved out of foam, this perfect model of me. And again, it's totally uncanny to see my physicality in front of me. It's not something most of us experience. I was a little bit heavier at this time, it's true. In the same way that these two heads have been useful to me for making costumes and masks and hats and things that have to go on my head, this is the most invaluable patterning mannequin I have here in the cave. So I'm eternally grateful for FBFX for both doing this and then sending me the actual sculpt. One thing I love about this sculpt is that if you actually, you actually look closely, there we go. Yeah, it's super lightweight. You can actually see my cell phone in my pocket in the scan. That is a high degree of fidelity. Every single one of these heads has aided me tremendously in the kind of cosplaying and making that I do. And I realized I'd never walked you guys through the whole collection. Thanks for joining me for this show and tell. And as always, I will see you guys next time.